Hello again, people. We are back with the main dickhead in George here, back from his holiday. How are we all doing, George? Lovely to
Good,
see
bro.
your
Good. Not
face
too
again.
bad. A little bit of Rome excursion on the return here. So I hope all the people are well in the comments. I've missed you guys. Sporting a little tan, sporting a little extra coming back from the land of Italia. Got some wine, some vino. Did some good carbonara, some clubs. I did some bad things, but didn't get arrested, so we moved.
You almost did, but with...
I did. I did. No, there was there was a time and you know what's crazy is like they call it policia, and like I was
Yes.
like a little bit, yeah. No, because here in us, like we don't do that. We just call them the cops or something. And then I used to yell, "The policia are coming! The policia are coming!" And we tried to dip around from where we were staying in our Airbnb, and it was by the Trevi Fountain. So maybe that's some member content about some issues with the policia with George Adventures down in Rome. But yeah, no, we're good, man. We're good. I'm back. I'm excited to be back doing the stuff that we love, and yeah, I can't wait to get into it.
So let's get into it because there's been a very, very nice Aston Villa game to break down. I think frustrating at times, really fluid at times. What did you make of it, CK?
Well, I think the game got kind of boring towards the end because we just sat off and then we let Villa have the ball. But I think the first half was a good half from us. I think we wasted chances. We'll get into it, but I think we wasted chances. And I never thought Villa really got into the game. They had their only shot on target in the 94th minute from Coutinho, which I think was a stupid decision to shoot when everybody in the whole team was in the box, but he still
Yeah.
shot. But yeah, I think apart from that, they didn't do much. And then I think their plan, we'll get into, but I didn't like their plan to try to create up top with only Watkins. But yeah, I think we were good, and a lot of things were like overblown, like the celebrations and stuff like that. But apart from that, it was a necessary win, and first time we've won 5 away games in a row since 2015.
Since 2015, correct.
Then Wenger.
And yeah, under Wenger. So, what did you make of the game, Willow? I assume you've got some thoughts on it as well.
I was really surprised actually with the game. The third game in 6 days, people were talking about Arsenal and how we're only doing what we're doing because we've got one game a week, but 3 games in 6 days, and our intensity is one of the best I've seen. That was one of our best first halves of football. I mean, obviously we didn't convert the chances we made, but our intensity was absolutely brilliant throughout that half. We were fantastic. Like the build-up play, we just kept sustaining pressure, sustained attack after attack. Like we were really, really good. I was really impressed with what we were producing. We absolutely dominated Villa in that first half. It was a real joyful performance to watch, and I think the people that are talking about us for we're not allowed to celebrate this much, you just shut up. Gabrielle Bonlahor, you got put in a spliff by Laura Woods. She completely shut you up, and I think we should be able to celebrate. I think, this season, 18 points out of 18 against Wolves, Leicester, and Villa. I think that shows our progression this season. It really does. It's really fantastic to see the kind of consistency we're starting to see now, and beating them kind of harder teams that are fighting to get into Europe and doing it consistently. It's really good to see.
Actually, you
Right.
know what? Like
And
before we go, I
yeah,
wanted to ask you guys a question because the craziest thing is I come back and everyone's losing their mind. Like, look, we all know what Arsenal Twitter is like and what Twitter is in general. Every time there's a rival win, there's a mini conniption from every single fan base, about, oh my God, like we're finally in the top four, we're ready for this. But I come back from like, Liverpool, and I obviously didn't get a chance to, pop on the preview. And I thought Villa, why was everyone worried? Like they were a team that suited us tactically down to a T. I mean, we'll get into why they struggled so much, but they really employ that Carlo Ancelotti Milan tactic in possession of a Christmas tree. They go really, in terms of a 4-3-2-1, and it was crazy to me that people were kind of worried about that when we do our best work wide. And so when they crash really centrally, I was really wondering why people were upset when they didn't have any outlets. Their top wingers are really those pseudo tens that like to come inside. we do our best work wide. And I just struggle to understand what the fear really was. Was it just because we lost? Like, I came back to legitimate anarchy on the timeline that people were like, I don't know if we get anything from Villa. Then we have Palace, and then we have Brighton. Like, we're really going to struggle. And I'm sitting there thinking, hold on a sec. Like, I understand that we played a game against Liverpool where, to my knowledge, we did well. Again, I have to rewatch it back, but it was a game where it wasn't like the pamming that we've had from previous. But I came back to what seemingly was a bad outcome, but poor performance that just snowballed into oh my god, the sky is falling. Villa are a huge team. Like, can somebody enlighten me on what happened?
People got afraid of Coutinho basically, and there was the whole "we should have signed Buendia" shouts. The standard narratives. I mean, we said on the preview as well, they didn't have a lot of runners. There was a lot of ball to feet. We expected Coutinho to be trying to pop up in the half spaces and try and basically get the ball and try and create from the half space. But he didn't really get into that thing because we neutralized it, which we'll get into. A lot of people were saying about how especially when we saw the lineup and there was Leno in the team, people were losing their minds over how we're done for. He can't even fill in a game. It's over. A lot of things. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we were at this point, you're used to it, but it's interesting.
I think also it's because like the general narrative before this game was that we're poor away from home, because we lost 2 games in a row to Everton and United, and we haven't lost away since those games. But we're poor away from home, and going into this game, we lost to Everton, we lost to United, we lost to Brentford, we lost to Chelsea early in the season. So we're going to lose any challenge we get. So that's why I think people were scared of Villa. But people didn't look that Villa lost their last game just before this, as well as us losing our last game. But before even Villa, like we're still on a great run of form now, but we were on a great run of form before Liverpool and before Villa. But I think losing to Liverpool and just the people who didn't speak for months because the last time we lost was Man City, those people just were so loud because there was no real negativity since Man City, because we literally won every single game but one, which was Burnley. It was a draw.
Well, I find it weird because, like, I understand all that, but we've now gone on to essentially have 5 away wins, which is the first time we've done that for over 7 years. Chris, you had a really great tweet about that.
It's May 2015.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, like, at the end of the day, there's narrative and then there's actual analysis about how we've been doing. And again, I don't want to speak too much on it because we'll get into like the Aston Villa where I think we changed. If a lot of people have been telling me, are we wrong for wanting a different kind of formation? I think in this game we saw a return to a lot of the playing perspectives that we've seen from previously before this 7 or 8 game run where, Granite was a lot higher. There was a lot more of a return to a traditional pivot. There was a lot more times that, Granite filled in the backspace. And I was happy for it because I felt that in order to match that kind of narrow perspective, what we really needed was Ramsdale, which was a huge miss. And maybe that transitions nicely into like the starting 11 chat, because I'll be honest, I kind of had to take everyone's credit at the time because I didn't see the injury to Ramsdale, but it doesn't seem large just from what they're
doing.
It seems like a bump. It seems like he got a bump.
There was no talk about it until the Leno.
Yeah, so like when I saw the lineup and I saw that was the case, I was like, oh, he's injured, so I'll have to take that as like face value. But for me, I think I saw that and I did get worried. I'm not going to lie, because when I saw that and then Gabby had an illness, the biggest thing that I looked at was the wing space, because like I said, it reminded me of Ancelotti's Milan. I don't know if you guys are young enough in the chat to really remember that team, but there was this famous or old enough, depends. I don't want to discriminate by age, but maybe you like that stuff. You go back. But there's that famous Christmas tree formation that he does, and Gerrard really does that. And we talk about outlets, but Gerrard has really transitioned to no longer really wanting that. Like, he has Leon Bailey, who is an outlet, but he prefers kind of emulating that Milan team, but also the Liverpool team that he tried to win with with himself. And they really enjoyed these like pseudo 10s in the half spaces, and they enjoyed their fullbacks bombing on, and basically their box to box 8s supporting the press. And what they do is they kind of press the ball side fullback very typically. And what was important for me was I wanted Granite to drop deep into that kind of wide space so that we could get an overload. I thought that was how we were going to have to hurt them because whether it was Ramsey or McGinn, they would press our ball side pressure, which is the
Yeah.
fullback, which from Tierney or Cedric. And the best way to do that was to create a quick overload there because they leave space in behind. They commit bodies. They do that 2-3-5 that we do, but they leave massive spaces centrally. And if you're able to exploit that, then you can rip them apart. And I think we did for the most part. Like we played some really excellent football. Again, key is Emile Smith Rowe, easily man of the match. But when I saw those starting lineups, guys, I'm not going to lie, I was worried about no Ramsdale, no Martinelli, because that would have been a really fruitful ball. Since they are so narrow and they're in that Christmas tree, it leaves spaces on the wings, right? So a really quick switch by Ben White or Ramsdale out to the wing for Gabby to get, he would have had tons of joy with it. And we really needed almost Emile to do his thing in tight spaces and switch play quickly to Saka to release because we weren't doing great at the beginning of getting him one-on-one. We kind of relied really on Emile to really get out of there. But again, it was that kind of wide space. Like that's where the space was for them. So once we exploited that, it was probably really simple. But yeah, looking at those starting lineups, I think that was probably my only
Let's
fear.
put them up. Let's put them up because we have them here. So the main thing I want to talk about, and just before George gets into it, is the yellow cards. I mean, we looked at the you can see here the yellow cards that were distributed, and for the amount of fouls they committed, I don't know if you guys picked up on it. We were getting carded like mad. I mean, I feel like the Granite one especially is mental. One foul, and he's been pointed to 3 incidents here, and here when he hasn't been called a foul at all, and yet he gets a yellow for it. It's a reputation yellow. I wanted to know what you guys thought on it.
Well, he said immediately after to the ref, like, what free
Yeah.
situation are you talking about? Because he committed one foul the whole game. He was literally fouled more times than he actually committed fouls in that game. So obviously it was that narrative like, oh, Xhaka's always committing fouls, so let me just give him this yellow. And it was like a hand in the chest, like, what are you doing to Buendia? Like, it wasn't even a big thing. So yeah, it wasn't a foul, and he just got the yellow, which makes it harder because I don't know how many he has this season, but I know he has a lot.
I think he's 6, if I'm not mistaken. Were there any thoughts on the Xhaka situation?
I think it's just ridiculous. As you said, Buendia came to him and he pushed him away. Like Buendia was squaring up to him and going with his head, and he pushed him away. And then the ref points to 3 different situations, and it's bad enough the ref doing that in the game, but even after, like Sky Sports, like they have like hired old retired refs to come in and talk about it, and even the retired ref was backing him up, saying, "Oh yeah, it was coming," and there was other situations, and I'm like, is this ingrained in every single ref? Like, do they put like microchips into their brains just to be like, oh, Granit Xhaka has given me a yellow card? Like, it's just getting to the point where it's just completely ridiculous now. Like, we're not getting protected. We're getting kicked around the whole game. Every single one of our players is getting kicked around. We're not getting protected. And when your players are getting yellow cards for saying something to a ref or pushing a player away from you, it just makes the game really difficult for you. And it's just ridiculous.
But I think beyond bias, mate, like just factually, he didn't have a foul. I could understand even at some kind of devil's advocate if there was a couple scenarios, and even if I disagreed that there was a viewing of the referee that had it differently, he legitimately had 1 foul. There's that clip that's going around where he goes, "What 3?" And he has a total right to do it. And guys, it's called cognitive bias. It's a real thing. It's a sports psychology term. And this is just fundamentally what it is. And I'm tired of, being careful around refs and being careful on the timeline for calling a spade a spade. Ultimately, people target Granit Xhaka because he's Granit Xhaka, not because the foul is potentially dangerous or whatnot, but factually, the ref and that ref targeted him because of his reputation. And I'm tired of it. And it's why our team is surrounding the refs. I love it. Guys, if you look at the screenshot, I don't know how the hell Leno got up there, but he does. And like when you're seeing the team do that, they're getting their big club mentality back where the refs feel afraid to even give those calls. That's what it is. People have clowned Arsenal and this team for so long. And, it isn't fair because none of those fouls and that whole shenanigans with the Xhaka debate. It wasn't. I know I'm more of a Xhaka fan than some other people online, but fundamentally that wasn't a foul in a yellow card sense, and it wasn't persistent fouling. When you have Dermot
Well, the
Gallagher,
only
an
one-
idiot on
the only-
TV, who's definitely a drunk still, sorry, Chris, trying to spout nonsense that it was persistent fouling, mate, have yourself another beer and go in the corner because, he didn't. He had one foul before that.
The whole,
So don't spew
the
nonsense.
whole game he had one foul.
Yeah.
But even at
It was
that
one
point,
of our players that the only one that was persistently fouling was Partey and Cedric.
Hmm.
They were the ones that kept.
And they did get
and Ben in transition, I must say.
Yeah, he was doing it in transition, but he wasn't getting called for it. They were the only ones that committed more than one foul in our whole team. Partey and Cedric.
Right.
And obviously,
One thing I do want to mention, because I don't want to get off too far off topic, is there any other surprises you want to talk about in this starting 11? I think for me, the front three is the main thing.
With the front three, for me, Aston Villa. Obviously, when Lampard came and what he did at Rangers was he'd have one player Gerrard.
Not
he'd have one player like the Coutinho and then have a runner. But I didn't like. I was happy he did this again with having Wendy and Coutinho, who are both ball to feet, and having only one outlet versus Ben White and Gabriel, because Watkins was bound to lose the majority of duels up top.
He was isolated.
Yeah, naturally he'll be outnumbered. So immediately I was very happy he did this. But then Douglas Luiz didn't have the greatest of games. And obviously Tyrone Mings never has the greatest of games. So the way they set up, I immediately knew there was gonna have a massive gap between them and Watkins, and then they'll
so bad. But mate, Tyrone Mings is a consequence of diversity training at its finest. How he gets into the England squad is craziness. Crazy, because
he is a bit of a minger. Let's not lie.
Tomori.
Every single time we talk about him.
Oh, sorry. I'm fine. Sorry. Go ahead, Chris. I've got an agenda against that.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying every single time we talk about him, Tyrone makes that exact joke. But yeah, Tyrone Mings was very
He's a
cool.
minger.
Okay. He kept trying that ball over the top, and eventually, when Dia tried to make a run, and every single time he was just offside. But it was
He's too aggressive in duels as well.
It was a poor setup, then a poor interview after, because he just started blaming other people. Like he was saying, Saka needs to be a bit more stronger in his
which is
tackle.
so ironic because he was famous in Rangers for saying the exact same shit about protecting his players.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, and you know what? And I'm tired of this stupid old school mentality that even if you aren't a hypocrite of the highest nature, Stephen, if you're not going to be doing that, this old school culture, the old school culture of, oh, it happened to me, therefore it's fine to happen to you, is the stupidest hypocrisy that I've ever heard in my life.
Because in the same
sentence, that you slipped and that you can't move the way that you did is because you got hacked. So you know what? If you're going to do that and wish something like that on another player, and I'm sorry, Arsenal fans, the reason that we're so pissed off about it, okay, is because we've seen our players out in oxygen masks with double leg breaks 3 times in the last decade. So it's not just Arsenal being, we're
generational talent as well. Generational talent.
He himself said, "Oh, I can't even go to the gym anymore because of how much I was fouled in my career."
Eduardo Ramsey.
Saka needs to be tougher.
Well, I saw it was reported as well. Apparently, 3 of our players were wearing oxygen masks after the game because they kept on getting fouled so badly.
But mate, and we've seen leg breaks. Don't sit there, and it's one of the biggest pet peeves that I've got when you've got assholes like Neville brothers who are targeting us, and they've gone on record saying we just hacked them. We had to. It's been in documentaries. That's how the Invincibles run got stopped. So I'm tired of fans and people being disingenuous when they start saying, oh, Arsenal fans are complaining. No, we've had decades of you guys cheating, and that's what it is. It's cheating, intentionally fouling people beyond the letter of the law. It isn't being aggressive. It isn't being dominant in the challenge. It is just you being dangerous. And Bukayo had tons of that all game. He's been having it all season. And that's fine. He's a good player. He's a great player. That's fine to get Jordan rules. But when you consistently go high above the shin, that's when he's going to get hurt. And you know what? When you do that, it's, oh, he's an English player. Oh, if he's not part of the elite of the Liverpool and Manchester United, it doesn't matter. No, I'm tired of that. I am glad that you're calling it out. I'm glad that Bukayo is getting a backbone, and I'm glad that he had the balls to sit there and go to the ref and say, listen, mate, this is enough's enough. I understand that you got to ref a game, but you got to protect me a little bit too. And if Steven is going to go ahead on record and be that Hippocratic in front of everybody else, I expect the entire football fraternity to call him out because it's BS.
Hippocratic.
Sorry.
Good word. But yeah,
Hypocritical, but yeah.
he's been
The
begging
main
refs.
thing, the main thing is you have defenders like Tyrone Mings going in off the floor, and obviously it wasn't to Saka, but the point is you have defenders aggressively going at our players. The perfect example is against Crystal Palace, Bukayo getting just kicked in his calf and nothing happened. I mean, that was ridiculous.
Bukayo at Crystal Palace got hacked from behind, and it was not even a foul.
Godfrey on Tomiyasu. You know what I mean? These are egregious fouls. Like it's ridiculous.
Beyond that, like I'm just tired of people saying that, every time Arsenal do something, it's an issue. And you know what, guys? Partly, I'm not gonna lie, I love it. I love it because everyone is worried. There's a deep down part of me right now. Oh, Arsenal can no longer celebrate. What? What do you want about Gabby Bongblower when you just said previously how great it was that your manager was given the big one with your fans? Oh, come on. Like, I think a big thing, a lot of this stuff that I've seen on narrative, and we'll get into the game because we got a little emotional here, but I'm back from Rome, all right? So this is what you guys get, is just I feel as though people are recognizing our threat. And, it's just people getting used to the idea that we're going to become a big club again. I think that's the biggest thing. And you're going to have some friction with that. But until we really reach that pedestal of that UCL, of really competing for the title, we're going to get these things where our players are going to have to kind of grow a pair, and stand up for themselves.
It won't even be when we're competing for the UCL. It will have to be after multiple UCLs, multiple Premier Leagues, because even Chelsea get it. Even though they get it to a less degree, they still get it. We don't get the same respect. You have to build a dynasty before you get that kind of respect. And it's just not going to happen. And the last thing I'm going to say before, because there is a couple of, we've gone on a bit, we've had 20 minutes and not talked about the single part of the game, is I need us to realize this isn't Emery 1819. We have a sustainable, repeatable system of play. We don't just score 4 and concede 3 and try and just, get through games and try and win things and prone to collapse. This is sustainable patterns of play, a sustainable block, sustainable ability to collapse in transition, a sustainable ability to do spring in transition. We have set pieces that are well coached. We haven't conceded a corner. There's so many different things than this to enter Emery in 1819. So we need to stop being so insecure about what we're doing and actually just enjoy the football. But yeah, let's talk about this pivot because we have gone on for 20 minutes and not talked about the single part of the game. So, George, I know you want to highlight the pivot, but Willow, I haven't heard from you in a while. What do you think about the reversion back to a pivot in traditional 4-3-3?
I think it's just good to see. I think we've got the balance back. I think you see the best out of our players. I think Granit looks a lot more comfortable with that role, and I think you get to see now as well, like when people are overloading in that half, in our left half, that we're not having that confusion now on who's tracking who's going with the overloads, who's going with the runners. We're not getting that confusion, which was costing us in games. Watford scored 2 goals out of that, so I think it's good to get back to that kind of state. And I think a lot of people look more comfortable. You saw Smith Rowe absolutely shine. Xhaka was out of that space. And I think Xhaka can get in the way of Smith Rowe if Smith Rowe is in that space. So I think it's good to see. But I think you see that because of Gabby's not there. Again, if Gabby is there, you probably see the reversion back to Xhaka being a lot higher up because then Gabby's touchline and then Tierney's further back. And I think it was nice to see Tierney come a lot more further up as well. I think you just get the best out of the players, I think, when we're in that state, when Xhaka's further back, when Smith Rowe's further ahead, when Smith Rowe's more in and Tierney's further forward. I think that's when you get the best. And I think we needed it versus Aston Villa. The way they play with how aggressive they are with their 8s and their left back and right back going so far up, you needed Xhaka a lot further back. If that's not happening, then we're getting caught out because you saw as well in the Leicester game, in the Watford game, when Xhaka is further ahead, the amount of space that's left behind and opponents really use that to their advantage. So when Xhaka, so it was good to have Xhaka further back. Otherwise, I think they really would have capitalised on that.
George, I know you want to talk about it specifically.
Yeah, so. Totally. I'm like itching. Kurt even knew beforehand. There was an idea that I was going to host, and I'm sitting here itching to talk about this because, of course, I want a narcissism pat on the back. But look, so when we have a look here, guys, about what we're looking at, it's very clear that we've got that double pivot kind of back, and I really tried to explain to people that there was a Band-Aid solution that was happening the last couple of weeks. A lot of people were like, "Oh, 4-3-3, this means philosophy." Not really for me. And it's no surprise that with Emil Smith Rowe kind of back in the team, you see a revert more to this type of what we had prior to that introduction. And that's because the last 7 or 8 games, Emil hasn't been fit. And when you combine that with Tomiyasu also isn't fit, basically what you're left with when you only have Martinelli out wide there is he's not able to come inside in the same way. And so the formation is the same. It's still this 2-3-5. So when we talk about zones over formations, this is what we talk about in the final third. But the transition in each of those half spaces are just a little bit different. So when you do have kind of Martinelli out wide, that's your widest channel of the 5. The inside has to be your 8 that pushes up, and your fullback has to stay back because when you have a striker like Lacazette, who I'm sorry is a second DM, even though we don't want him to be, but he is, and he drops deep like that, you essentially need your 8 or that person in the inside channel to burst beyond and offer a box threat. That's what Granit Xhaka has been doing. Now, that doesn't suit Granit Xhaka. It doesn't suit Kieran Tierney. When you saw in this game was absolutely Xhaka able to move back, dictate play a lot. And one thing that we also don't quite have, but you've seen him drop to where Kieran was quite a bit. And Kieran was the one in the widest channel. And of course, Emil kind of dropped in. That makes the best use of the guys that we have on the pitch, namely Emil, Xhaka, and Tierney, all of which looked great in this game. And, Emil Smith Rowe that kind of started wide. We'll get into the specific instances, but when he cut inside and he was switching play out to Saka very quickly, and we basically had Martin Odegaard who was supplying the in to out run, which is excellent to see from him again. Well done, kudos Odegaard again, because he was doing that a lot today, or rather on the game. But what you're looking at essentially is these two types of gameplay where our pivot option, and people love to get nitty gritty in the details, but if you've got a striker that's dropping deep, okay, there's two options in order to fill those 5 channels. Either you use a fullback or you use a winger. Those are the two positions essentially right now. And when you're getting somebody to move on from Granite, which I think will be a lot harder than people think, you need to have somebody that's comfortable doing both. And we need to have somebody that's a little bit higher up, that can do that role that, Xhaka had been doing. But I don't think that has to be a striker, for example. That doesn't have to be an inside forward. We have to get a little bit more comfortable with understanding that the base structure is a 2-3-5. And fundamentally, getting Kieran Tierney as your wide outlet there is only going to benefit him. Getting Granit Xhaka away from those tight spaces and high up at the top of the box is not benefiting him. Can he do it? Yes. Can these guys do it? Sure. Did Thomas Partey have a poor game? No. He had one of his better games, and he actually was a lot higher up this game and had a lot more goal threat. So I think everywhere on the pitch, when you have that orientation of that kind of pivot or more traditional pivot deeper, it helps more people down that side. And you actually saw the left-hand side be a lot more fluid. And really, we'll get into it. The right-hand side did struggle a bit. I think Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka had a loose touches to begin with, and they did struggle at the beginning. So that right-hand side wasn't working great. We had to use the left, and really the opening chance, which I'm sure we'll get into after Odegaard's, kind of miss, was that Emil Smith Rowe switch from the left to right, which really opened things up and really caused the best chance of the game, in my opinion. But that's kind of the base structure for everybody in the comments right now about like, what does Xhaka offer? What is it about this pivot, this lone pivot, like kind of timeline war? It's basically the same thing, both ways. But what we really want to do is, are we maximizing people on the left as much as we are on the right? And that's really kind of the base that we're really going to be asking of a lot of these questions. And what do we recruit and how do we recruit there? I think there's a big debate. Personally, I think people are trying to solve both issues with one player, which is ridiculous. I think you do need 2 players to solve this issue. And we know who I'd like to do that. But this is how it related to this game. We basically had Thomas Partey still getting the conducting reins, which I'm loving, even in a double pivot. Even in this more traditional pivot, we had Thomas Partey still take the progression reins, which he needs to do. And this, for me, again, maybe it's a little bit of confirmation bias, but one of his better games, even in this run, Thomas Partey shined in this game. And it was because, for me, he had the license to go up a little bit. So, yeah, that was kind of my pivot impact. I don't know if any of the boys wanted to jump in on that.
I mean, for me, the whole thing about the pivot is it allows you to keep that. I mean, we're going to reiterate the similar talking points we always do. Keep that central compactness, keep that ability to block transitions, especially when you have such a narrow formation as Villa do. You want to be able to hit your man in transition in the center, because they don't really have a lot of width to exploit runners going past you. So it's very much hit your man in transition early, high, and you can sustain pressure very easily. And that's how we did it this game. But yeah, we also, obviously, the return of the pivot also allows you to allow for Kieran to be a lot more higher, and you can receive the return of the greatest left back in the world, Granit Xhaka. He's back in his Villarreal formation that people have despised for over a year now, but it does allow for Kieran to be high and wide, and we did saw a massive improvement from Kieran this game. I feel like he's so much more comfortable in that role, and when you have Tomiyasu back, or if you have when you have that ability to have your left back high and wide, it gives Emil or Gabby, whoever's in that role, the ability to make runs centrally, and that's where you want them because of their ball striking, their ability to link up play, and their ability to affect the final action. You want them as central as possible, so they can impact where you want them to impact, I think.
Yeah, and really quickly, like this kind of, sorry, just to jump in, like this kind of question from Zuhair, like great question, thanks, mate. In terms of why is he less aggressive in the box when compared to kind of Emil, and in terms of where he gambles, for me, it's because he's not comfortable receiving ball to feet in the same way that people think he is. You know, Martinelli is a head down dribbler. There's a reason I kind of project him to be a striker and not a touchline winger. It's because he's not able to go in and out with the same dynamism that Emil Smith-Rowe is. So when you have Emil Smith-Rowe in this position, and if you guys can see on your screen, we've got that more traditional box here where you've got, Granit in that left half space. Partey is central, of course, but Kieran Tierney is high and wide, and Emil's in that half space. Who do I want attacking the box and creating that space, that inside channel? Forget the numbers, because I think people on Twitter get really nitpicky with the numbers. Oh, it's got to be a pivot. It's got to be a lone pivot. No, forget that. That inside channel in the 5, okay? What is his role? Very simply, he is used in order, if you're going to have a false 9 like Lacazette, who will drop deep, that inside channel has to be used for someone attacking the box. They got to pull center backs out there. So then I ask the question, who do you prefer? Granit Xhaka doing that job or Emil Smith-Rowe doing that job? I think the role is really quite easy. Emil Smith-Rowe is far better doing that job in that role. So call it 6, 8, 10, 18, whatever number you want. That inside channel is what the role is. Now, the person holding the width, for me, has to be a big space runner capable up and down so that he can crash in that 4-4-2, but also somebody willing to receive wide but able to hold that width. And doing that to Gabby isn't something that I think is very fair to him, and why you see him less aggressive in the box compared to Emil. Emil is constantly shoot on sight. Gabby has been coached because of his role of being a touchline winger to receive, keep possession, and it's been curtailed a little bit. So I think naturally Martinelli is very aggressive in the box. I think it's one of his best qualities, in fact, especially when you see him playing in that striker role. He does pick up loose balls. He's very active to that in the box, but because his role is far more of a touchline and he's in that wide channel, people are just confusing the roles. If you have Martinelli in the wide area where Kieran is, his role is not to be one that provokes in the box. That's for the inside channel. His role is to keep the width and be composed and retain recycle possession. So that, I think, is the real difference. And Emil, he himself has a trustworthy wide outlet in Tierney, so he is able to be the more aggressive in the box. That role doesn't have to be just pulling center backs out. It can also kind of add the point of having somebody that's able to be combining in play, but also jump in and kind of stretch the play a little bit more. But I don't know. Chris, did you want to jump on this as well?
Well, it is a very clear 2-3-5. Obviously, Gabriel stepped. If you can see, he's ahead of Watkins, but it's a clear 3 with Cedric, Partey, and Xhaka, and then the 5 in the front line that it's always the same. But I think this is a bit better than what we usually have with Martinelli, just because sometimes you'll see Emil and Tierney flip the roles, but with Martinelli, you rarely see Tierney on the outside. I think Emil always allows for more of this dynamism and variability, just to more unpredictability inside. Is why he always like creates from so many different places on the pitch, whether it be in the right half space, in the left half space, or just making a dart and run himself. That Martinelli doesn't offer the same dynamism on the pitch with that Emil does. And with this like formation, obviously, you would say people shouldn't get too hung up on the 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, because if we did, we never see Xhaka in that left back role. There will be no real explanation for Xhaka to be in that left back role if we did get hung up on, oh, it's 4-3-3, Tierney has to stay at the left back and all this stuff. So I think the change was very good, because we needed more potency from wide, and just with them crashing so central, you need someone who always move. And because Laka and Erdegaard don't do a lot of their work central, obviously Laka, his movement doesn't cause issues, so you need someone to cause issues centrally. That isn't Laka, and Smith Rowe does that a lot better than Martinelli from the
I
left.
think just really quickly to kind of answer Raul's question. Well, at the same token, I think Emil has an excellent first touch and can definitely receive wide to get that Ramsdale link up. But the issue that I've got here is kind of with the question when you're asking, does he do a better job in the wide channel versus Tierney in the Xhaka position? Well, again, I'd ask you, do you think Tierney's great in tight spaces? I don't know about that. He can do the running portion of that role in terms of stretching the opposition center backs, but is he able to be inside and be able to be great in tight spaces, go into out? I'm not too sure, especially as an inverted role. That's not something that we see. As much as I love Kieran, he's quite stiff in receiving those angles, so that's not something that benefits him. That's why I really enjoy this kind of Emil Smith Rowe aspect, where the interchange of having Kieran Tierney wide gets him very simple in his best position. You make the best of Kieran Tierney. Getting Xhaka deep to dictate play and in space to move how he wants gets the best out of Granit Xhaka. Having Emil on the inside channel and closer to goal for combination play makes the best out of not only him in that area, but also Lacazette, who likes to drop deep and do combination play. And you still have that threat of somebody that's going to attack the box beyond. So can we do these changes, Raul? Absolutely we can. Does it make the best of the players in those positions? I'm not too sure. It's why I've always pushed back. And you know what? We do have to get into the specific scenarios, but I think this is the reason. This game is going to show people a lot of the reasons why when Emil Smith Rowe is back fit, you're going to see kind of a difference of a more return to this traditional pivot. You're going to see that when Tomiyasu's back as well, because these are the kind of rotations that allow for the biggest variability. I think with Martinelli there, it's one-way traffic. We know where it's going. There's a lot less unpredictability, in terms of how we play that left-hand side. I think it looked a lot more fluid in this game. It's no coincidence. But yeah, we should probably get into the specific instance.
Yeah, so I think the first thing we wanted to talk about is the initial chance at 2 minutes. So basically, we have Thomas Partey here, and he finds Bukayo, which is, I want to talk about this quite clearly because this was a main feature of our game. The switches from half spaces. We tried to switch the ball into space from left to right consistently this game, and I think it was so smart to do that because you have Ashley Young and you can isolate. We talked about it in the preview as well. Isolating Ashley Young or Bukayo Saka is going to be the Danny Rose experiment again. And he took advantage, and what we tried to do was overload on the left to release on the right, and this chance perfectly exemplifies that. So Partey passes to Saka in space, and that first touch is Bukayo Saka's bread and butter. He gets it off. Does anyone have any thoughts on the initial on the theory of the overload to space?
Well, really, really quickly, I think you can see this Christmas tree that I was talking about earlier in the pod so clearly here. Look, there's almost a blanket, a proverbial blanket that you could coat over everybody on the central spaces there. And what Partey's done is find space out wide, which is kind of what I was saying before. We did this a lot under Mikel. Mikel loves this. Draw the space in for your opposition, then quick switches out to the opposite flank, and in order to release the winger out in space. We do this all the time. And I think this is a perfect example of exploiting that narrow Christmas tree structure that kind of Gerrard employed with their 10s inside. And, Partey's got the technique to find Saka quickly. And, of course, when you're a 1v1 with Ashley Young, the shit brain, It's very easy to get through. So I don't think Bukayo does anything special there. It's all in the pass from Partey, who's done phenomenally there. And yeah, he just bursts into space and he does his thing. But I think really quickly, it just showed that kind of Christmas tree and where the weakness was, which was out wide, kind of on the opposite flank.
Well, yeah, that pass was a very, very, very great pass. Like, what's his name? Young immediately thought he could get it, and it just went past him and allowed
Well, he
Saka to take
stepped, didn't he? He
Yeah,
stepped into
tried
thinking that he could get it, and he
and
just
just
got
went.
beat.
And yeah, Saka's first touch is always very good.
Yeah.
And then he uses the space ahead of him very, very well. And obviously, yeah, move on to the next one, please. Yeah, he used the space very well, gets to the ball, and he was in a race with Tyrone Mings, who overcommitted and then left space in behind him for what I thought should have been a first-time shot.
It should have been a first-time shot.
Okay, the only thing is chaos made. I know you said you won, you found Odegaard, but this is the issue that I've got with the boy. And it's not that I don't think he can do it, but he's got the technique to do it. There's no excuse for me in this area not to hit it first time or even to set and hit it weak foot. This is an issue because Odegaard doesn't shoot with his weak foot. He hesitates his final ball or his final action, whether that's a shot or a pass, far too often. And if he was to do it, we would see a different Odegaard. We would see somebody that could actually explode and somebody that I'd be confident in. But I don't know. I don't think it's a lack of ability because when he does shoot, he actually does have quite good technique. He does.
He did it against Man United. He did it against United with his right foot first time, hit it right into the corner. So I don't know why he hasn't got the confidence to be able to go and do it again. Because it's like there's been so many instances where he has chose to take a touch and then got closed down. I really don't get why he doesn't do it after getting the confidence of scoring a goal against United.
No, exactly, mate. And like this isn't the first game. Like there's countless examples of him
doing. Everton. There's a lot of examples of him doing this.
He did it at Liverpool, did he not?
He did, yeah.
I saw the highlights. He did it at Liverpool when it was 0-0.
That was even on his left.
It was on his left.
Even this one, he's receiving on his strong foot. In theory, you just got to dink it far post. So again, I don't do it to hammer the boy, but when you're in this much space, I don't care who you are. Bukayo has given you the qualitative superiority, that little tactical term that we discussed before I left. And he gives you the opportunity to make use of that advantage. Even if you don't see it, why not clip it far post to Lacazette, guys? He's onside.
Even with that, like even with all of that, even if you the pass to him was weighted so well that he had time to take 3 or 4 touches and then pass to Emil. So he could have shot. He could have. Yeah, you're right. He could have found Laka, but even with a poor first touch, he should have shot for me far post.
And the thing that makes me upset the most is when Saka is in that position because we're now sacrificing to have Saka wide, right? We've talked about how these channels just talk about roles, right? When Saka is in that role, I trust him to score there, guys. I trust him to find Lacazette. How many times do we find Saka shoot it over to Oba across far post? How many times did that pattern of play happen? All the time. And sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that he should shoot across goal because if the keeper should pull it anywhere, Lacazette will pounce immediately. Like for me, he should shoot across goal, and even if it's saved, the Lacazette will tap it in.
And part of the problem, guys, is when you look at it, this is my biggest critique because it is who he is. And when people say, George, why are you so harsh? I think he hesitates on his final action far too much. It's not just shooting, guys. He does this with his final ball quite a bit too, where he does delay it. He's a dribbler. Look, all dribblers do this, by the way. It's not just Martin Odegaard. It's not like I have an agenda against Martin Odegaard only. Every dribbler that's a really good dribbler has this innate ability to continue to hold on to the freaking ball. Like it's a coach's job to try to get him to put his head up. But I think he needs to do better here because it's getting to the point where we're almost leaving a goal per game. Kind of really consistently. I don't know about Leicester, but when you look at it here, afterwards, there's no reason. Sorry,
it's too crowded for Emil's shot to even go in. There's 5 players in front of him.
But this is when you deflect responsibility. For me, Hector Bellerin used to do this all the time. He used to dribble in the trouble, leave it off to somebody who had tons of space, and you've now given it to Emil in an area where he's not going to do well. How is he supposed to shoot through 4 crowded players? Like, you had the opportunity. And by going wide like that, holding on to the ball, you waste your opportunity. You waste your ability to really attack the net. And I need him to get more aggressive. I think he can. I'm hopeful that he can. But until he does, there's always going to be a question mark for me with him in the final third.
The worst thing is, or the best thing is, or in fact, the worst thing is, it's improved. Like, it used to be worse.
Yeah.
Like, his verticality and aggressiveness and tendencies to attack spaces was so much worse that last season he may not have even been in that position. Cedric would have been there.
Well,
and
he wasn't
probably,
wide, right? He wasn't doing the in-to-out runs.
yeah, he would have been in the 3, in the
Yeah.
2-3-5. He wouldn't have been in that 5 last season, but at least this season he's constantly making that third man run. But the next step is the potency. Do I think we'll get there every single week? Maybe not, but I hope he does.
The thing is, the things that the one thing that I think personally, because I'll be real, I'm more of a fan of Odegaard than the rest of the guys here, but I don't have that. I'm not like fully, you know what I mean. My whole thing is I think that with the improvements that he's shown, there are innate things that you can't improve. Like, I don't see him developing an elite short-term burst into space. I don't see him doing that. I see him being able to be more tactically aware and have the awareness to get off shots at times, but there's innate traits that you can't unlearn. Like things like the ability to get things off first time, or things like holding onto the ball and looking for a pass. If he has the ability to go first time, as George did intimate, then we have one of the best 10s in the world. His ability on and off the ball is been all to see, especially his off the ball work, which has been widely improved.
In order to allow him in the starting 11, that's what we need. Like, if you're going to have somebody that's going to be limited athletically, that he's not able to create that separation, he needs to be able to hit things first time. When you're in those positions, he's athletically not going to be able to skip past players. So when he receives there, he has to make use of his quick thinking and his quick brain, which, by the way, he has, because he's got the best final ball in the freaking squad. So he's got the ability to do it. But if he's not going to be able to do those things consistently, that's when I have trouble with him consistently kind of in the final third.
Yeah, so I think with Odegaard, it's very much a case where you have to look and see, is this going to be someone that we want starting for a title-winning team? At this moment in time, I'm on the fence. It can happen, but at this moment in time, I can't say with solidity that he will 100% be there. But it's not the fact that he's just someone I want to sell or needs to be at the club. I think that there's
you don't have to go that
talent.
far.
I was going to say,
A guy that good is valuable. And sorry to cut you off, Wille, but a guy that good is valuable in any squad.
Yeah, he's
Sorry,
got an
Willow, you were
aspect
saying.
that no one. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Will. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I don't think we need to be getting that carried away. I think Martin showed over the last year on how much he's progressed with things that we've asked him to do. Yeah. Now he is doing so much more than we didn't think that he was going to do. Like, he is making them outer runs now. He is making that third man run. Now when he releases the ball, he's charging into that box. And we've seen him with the ability, as I said again, in the Man United game, he hit that on his right and he put it right into the corner to beat De Gea, who is a very good shot stopper. So he definitely has the ability to do it. It's just, again, learning that he needs to do that. And I think, can a coach like Mikel teach that to him? Yes, I think he can. Will it maybe take some more time because you got to change a player's instincts? Yeah, maybe. But I generally think Odegaard could do it. I think he's proved me wrong with a lot of what I thought he was capable of. And I think he's starting to do a lot of the things that I wanted him to do. So do I think he could do that? 100% think he could do that.
Yeah, look, I think you don't have to go to the other end of the spectrum that you should get rid of him. That he's not doing these things. If he does these things, he warrants his ability to stay in the starting 11. But long term, if we find somebody that still struggles with the same thing, that if athletically is not able to cover ground but still hesitates his final action, then we're going to have to reconsider something there, because those are the fine margins, by the way. These are the fine margins. I know they don't count now, but when you're competing for titles and you're looking at the Champions League and you're getting top teams and top positions and you get those opportunities, that's what you're going to be shaking your fists at.
We're going to be needing to be getting 2.5 to 2.7 points per game. This is the reality of the situation. And if
that's
you're
the next step, though, I think, Curran. Like, I think people get confused that I'm not judging him where I'm at now. And maybe that's harsh, but I'm judging him in a title-winning team. That's what
I
I'm
think we
looking
all
at.
are. This is the thing. I think that's got to be the standard. And this is where I struggle with Twitter, because you can't have this. We have this dichotomy where there's a love for Erdegaard, but this is again someone that likes Erdegaard a lot and celebrates every time he does well. You have to have the ability to say, look, this is where we're at, but is he going to be able to take us to where we want to go? Is he going to be in the level of someone that can win us a title, get us there, and win us a Champions League, maybe? And at this moment in time, if he's going to be the focal point, it's going to be a very, very much a struggle to get to that point where with the Cities and the Liverpools, with the Bayern Munich, the Real Madrid, and the Barcelonas, especially now they're looking like they're coming back. So there's a lot of we have to realize that we're at one stage, we need to get to the next stage.
We're still filling holes in the squad, right?
Mhm.
And he's an example of an upgrade. So there's a little bit difference here for me. There's still holes in the squad, so he's the kind of last on the priority list about when you're looking at it. But when you've got a complete squad and you're starting to look at upgrades within those specific positions, this is where I fear we're going to look back. That doesn't make him a crap player. That doesn't mean that he can't serve a role as a finisher. That doesn't mean he has no use in the squad like Twitter would love to have you believe. But at the same token, I think this is going to be happening a lot more. And kind of when we look throughout the game, he wasn't the worst player on the pitch. I think that reserved for somebody else, and we'll get into a little bit later. But ultimately, I think that he's got to improve that verticality, improve that weak foot, and improve kind of his reluctance or his hesitation to that final action. Once he does that, I'm very happy to keep him in the squad for as long as he wants. But once he does that, and he'll do that more, by the way, with a physical striker. When we talk about Dominic,
I think while we're talking, we should really have a discussion on his man marking as well, because he was.
I was just going to transition because that for me is the big benefit of his game today, or when he did it. Well, the whole idea is that he sits on Louise, but also Cedric sat on Watkins as well, which was something I don't think a lot of people saw. But this entire man marking scheme was part of our 1-2 press that we love to do, right, guys? Like Xhaka will always step to the 8 on the ball side, which is Ramsey down there in the picture. And Martin Odegaard's just sitting on Douglas Luiz, stopping the progressor. This has become a thing that we know of Arsenal. They will stick one person on the progressor. That's typically Martin, and it allows for basically Laka to do Laka things, kind of up top, but pressure the ball to one side. So I think that this was probably the most important thing off the ball that we saw from Martin, and probably anybody in the team, because he has the most important one. There's a couple times he lost his marker with McGinn early on, but when he was able to sit on Douglas Luiz, he was quiet, and that was a big reason that why Villa couldn't get out as well.
I mean, the other thing is when you block the route to your 6, and especially in a 4-3-3, it leads to the ability to really block and clog passing lanes, because that 6 is so crucial to advancing through the phases, especially when it's someone like Douglas Luiz. You have the ability to stop. Either you force them to go long or go wide to their fullbacks, and it's something that I'm very impressed though, because last time it was Lacazette and Luiz. This time it's Erdegaard and Luiz. I mean, but last time we were rocking that 4-4-2 with Alba and Laka, and we had Laka drop into that Luiz role. But we transitioned it well with Erdegaard, and his work rate off the ball was impressive again, just like it was against Liverpool. His ability to urge players up the field, try and make sure to keep your pivot as high as possible to crash in case the second ball does arise. I think it was very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I don't have too much to add to that.
No, I think we do. I mean, I think we have. We should move on to the
meal chain.
The meal chance. Yeah, here we go. So, George, if you want to go, I'll let you go. This is the George podcast, people, for today. He's been itching to talk, so I'll let him talk. Go on, George.
So I mean, just ultimately, what you've got is kind of that transition going through where Kieran's deep again. He's going to pass it kind of to Emil. who's kind of in that wide channel, right? He's able to receive, and the next kind of areas. Once Emil does see, he hits it first time. This is something that I don't think I really see with Martinelli as much. Martinelli stops, kills the ball, looks up, and he'll run. Emil recognizes the ability there that they're right now they're kind of not they're overloaded really by Villa, and what Emil does is he creates that qualitative superiority that we talked about in previous podcasts, where just his movement alone, his awareness to hit that first time to Granit Xhaka, who again has a first time return wall pass, which is excellent, takes 3 Villa players out of the ball. And now what you've got is you've got about 4 Villa players between Luiz, Konza, I think it's Ramsey, Coutinho, and there's one other guy down there, but there's 4 to 5 Villa players kind of in that left half space, and that means that there's space where? There's space outside, and Emil does beautifully to recognize that space, and boom, we see him crossfield ball out to Saka, and Saka receives, and this is again Odegaard doing an amazing job off the ball, going into out, supplying that run for Saka. And Saka just jinks him in really cleverly, and Odegaard has a 1-2, and he's off to the races. And he pulls his marker inside. Bukayo is very smart to run blind side, and he makes that run kind of really central. And he receives. And the big thing, guys, is Emil right now is unmarked. I'll go quickly back to the Odegaard 1-2. If you look, Emil is making the run kind of at the top of the box there. And when you see it after Saka's gone deep, he's unmarked in the middle of the box, and this is a beautiful chance. And I think that kind of late run from Emil shows that he's not just admiring his pass. That's something that we teach for a lot of younger players. Okay, make your ball, make your pass, but don't admire it. Follow the play, and Emil does that beautifully. And yeah, it's kind of a poor miss. Lacazette gets in his way a little bit, and I don't think Emil catches it right either. But that was a beautiful play that, for me, summed up what we were trying to do with this Villa side from the very beginning. Basically, suck people in far side, quick switches out to the right. Why? Because we didn't have a Martinelli kind of touchline presence there, so we couldn't do it both sides. And we used Emil's close combination play to get out of that really tight Christmas tree formation to switch. Whether it was Emil, Partey, everybody kept looking for Saka wide, and Saka was just having a field day. Beyond the Jordan rules and the hacking kind of all game that he was receiving. But yeah, that pattern of play was just immense, guys. And I think we saw it so many times.
Just quickly, real quickly. In terms of man marking Partey, the issue with that is that our progression isn't just Partey. Our progression, we run it through White at times, we run it through Partey, and even when you have Partey, if you try and press him, he's so press resistant and able to get wriggled out of tight spaces. It's a bit silly to go hard on him, because you're just going to end up getting beat. And plus, the other thing is he has so many men around him. He has Xhaka next to him. He has the ability to go back and then create another angle. It's difficult for him. The reason why it works on other teams from us is because we usually use this against teams that have a single pivot in the first phase of play, and we are able to cut our passing lanes to that man. And when you're able to do that, you're able to clog progression there. In there, basically, you have teams passing around the back constantly and trying to do this metronome formation to try and find a way to get out of the first phase. With us, it's a case that you have 2 men in that pivot, as well as the ability for progression to be pushed wide as well as back, and another runner in Ben White who's also able to run into space when you create that ability to overload onto Thomas Partey. So that's why we don't really see that against us as much. In terms of this chance, as I said before, it's a case where you have the ability to switch from the half space into the opposite side. So overload to one side, and we saw this so well in the FA Cup run. Obviously, it was inverted with Alba coming left. But in the FA Cup run, we would go through the right side with Ainsley, and we'd go through that right-hand side, build up, and we'd switch it to the left, where Alba would make that run. We saw that Man City goal. We've inverted that to do it on the right, because our main threat is Saka, and we want to exploit that duel with Ashley Young. So we have the ability to do these things. Willa, what do you think of this mechanics of our build up and how we how we built up and how we exploited the Aston Villa weakness in their block.
I was actually so scared. Like, I know George was like, "Oh, I don't know why people were so scared," but when I saw the starting 11, I saw it was Leno. I was like, "Oh no!" Like, "Oh, what's it?" But I thought our team did really well to counteract that. Like, really, like our build up. That was some of the best build up I've seen this season. We were quality. Well, what we did was we just didn't let Leno touch the ball. As soon as Leno passed, everyone made sure whatever you do, I don't care if you've got to boot it out, just do not put that ball back to Leno. And I think everyone done really well. The build up was brilliant. As I said, Partey for me, George, you said Smith Rowe was your man of the match. For me, Partey was my man of the match. I thought Partey was absolutely quality again. I love what he does. The amount of times he does that reverse pass, but he disguises it to Saka to give Saka that extra space to be able to run forward. It was so good to see. And I think Villa had to change how they played against us because normally, I think George highlighted earlier, their eights push up onto our fullbacks. But in the end, you saw John McGinn having to double up with Ashley Young to contain Saka because Saka was absolutely killing Young in that first half, and it was pulling Mings out of position, which showed that Smith Rowe got his first chance, which made that happen. So Villa had to change on how they played. So I really, really enjoyed our build-up play. As I said earlier, we just kept on sustaining attack after attack after attack with our build-up play. Villa just could not get on the ball. We were brilliant with our build-up play, and they kept doing what Gerrard's tried to do with them, with Rangers, pushing them up, really trying to press us and get the ball off of us. But every time we were just playing around them and taking it from one side of the pitch to the other, and they just couldn't cope all game. They looked knackered at half time because we were just running them ragged.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, go ahead, mate. You can talk
Currently
about
mute,
your,
Currently mute, by the way. And with me seeing the lineup, obviously before I went to a mill, because I knew Digne was injured, the big threat with the overlap with Ashley Young wasn't as big a threat because naturally he's going to cut in, and Coutinho naturally cuts in as well. Like he rarely goes on the outside, so they were going to be tighter than they usually are, and they generally do play in a smaller section of the pitch. So immediately I wasn't fearing them offensively, but with Emil, I think he just added a completely different dynamic on the left that no one else on the team does with the combination play and just the burst of pace. Like obviously Martinelli, whenever he receives the ball, he takes 2 touches. I don't think I've ever seen him take 1 touch and then release. He always takes 2 touches to settle, and then he looks up. But he just takes a lot more time to make his decisions. Like that 1 touch pass into Xhaka and the return. You never see that with Martinelli. You never see those patterns of play on the left when Martinelli's there. And this is not a stick to beat him with. They're just different players. And you just get different things when you see them on the pitch. And with the chance coming, like Smith Rowe always makes these third man runs centrally. And this time, him and Lacazette didn't communicate well, but I really think he deserved the goal. Like he really deserved the goal for that piece passage of play, but obviously Lacazette took it from him. But on the right hand side, it was also a good combination play from both sides, and the consistency in that combination play with Saka consistently finding that his right foot pass, and I don't think his right foot is praised enough. Like the consistency he delivers that pass with is very, very good. But again, that's another chance we wasted in the box in the first half.
Yeah, and then I think like when you do really look at it, it basically leads itself to like the Saka goal, which I hated that we scored that way. Like we had such beautiful play previously that this was the way that we did it. But ultimately, like when you do look at it, Saka, look, he smells the goal. Saka never gets the credit for doing this because he's not a huge output machine, according to some, even though he's having his most productive season in an Arsenal shirt. But anyways, we move. But Saka smells that goal at the top of the 18. And, look, I think it's a little bit of a scrappy goal. It's through bodies. Emmy probably doesn't see it like he sees it late probably, but I don't care. I really don't care because we were due that far, far before that passage of play. Like I said, that Emil chance probably deserved the goal. If you wanted an Arteta goal, probably that. But this is just smart, intelligent play from an attacker, not using the system necessarily, but just smelling an opportunity, having some creative freedom and just letting it fly. And I think our team has done this a lot more, guys, just in general. I don't know if there's too much analysis on that goal beyond willing to shoot. And I think beyond the Baldy up top, our team in general has been more willing to shoot. And it's gone to the benefit of our attacking output. So this is all Saka's willingness to shoot, his ability to smell a goal. And it was excellent, really.
I think it's his movement as well. I think if you see, like, he's the one to take the free kick, isn't he? And he passes it off, and
Yeah.
you see his movement of he's constantly following that ball, moving like more and more central, knowing that if this ball drops, I'm going to be the person to reach this. And it's a bit of a lucky goal because I think he shins it in. I think it's a shin. I think it's a shin roller in, but it's good enough to go in. At the end of the day, if you don't buy a ticket for the raffle, you can't win it. So it's just instinct, isn't it?
Like that for me is the big thing.
I like that.
For me, guys, like it's the gamble to want to get in the box, right? Like he is outside, he's away from play. He doesn't have a right to be there, but he gambles. He makes an intelligent guess that that's where the space is going to be, and he's rewarded for it. And you know what, guys? Personally, I don't understand why attackers aren't given benefit for off the ball movement. And you see it with people like Tammy Abraham, who never get the plaudits for their tap-ins. Everyone just says he scores easy goals. Well, the reason he does that is from great movement. And while the technique isn't clean, like you said, Willow, like you also said, the movement is stellar. That's why he buys a ticket to the raffle, gambles it up, and he wins. He hits the jackpot, so to speak. So yeah, and I think that this was well overdue, by the way. Like I think how we were playing in the first half was complete domination. And we should have been up by several goals, to be honest with you. But I'm glad that we went into the half basically 1-0 up. And I don't know. I think things struggled in the second half. The first 20 minutes of that second half were questionable from a technical standpoint. I don't think we did anything wrong tactically. No. Gerrard definitely changed things up, and he obviously added in that outlet from Leon Bailey to kind of change things up. But from ourselves, we were just very loose technically. We were giving the ball away that we weren't doing in the first half. And it kind of led to this period where Villa did get an opportunity to kind of get their foot on the ball. But then after that, I think we did really well to go into our compact block. We did the holding super sub, didn't we, guys? The
5-2-3,
so to speak. And we did that block, that super sub block. But I think for the second half, a lot of people I saw got worried. But for me, when you look back at the game, even the post that got hit by, I forget who did it, but it was in like the 70th minute.
Yeah, no, that was Ings, I think, wasn't it?
It could have been Ings, but it was always going wide for me, and it was a poor shot. Even McGinn, who had a chance kind of just inside the box or just outside, kind of earlier on, I think in like the 65th minute. That came from, again, a loose ball that he gambled on to go far post. But again,
there was a looping header as well. Do you remember? There was that header
I think that was
the header was Ings, and
that was Ings.
The post was Mings, and ESR blocked
Mings,
yeah,
or deflected it. But I think before you go into the second half, what did you think of the Mings foul?
The Mings foul.
I was furious. Like, here, we'll put it up. But I was furious in real time, but afterwards, I can't really get upset at that. I'm not gonna lie. Like the follow.
That's a yellow. That's a heavy yellow for me.
It's an orange. It's an orange. I call them. Like you've seen them given, but for me, I would be. Yeah, it's your shirt, Kern. It's like I think his foot's down and he's kept control of himself personally. That I'd be upset if an Arsenal player got a red card for that. It is a tough challenge for me personally. They deserved yellow cards for the persistent fouling on Saka well before. I was more pissed at that than I was maybe.
I was more pissed at McGinn. McGinn got a yellow and then pushed.
Lacquer over
for some reason, and apparently that's not a yellow. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, no. For me, it's Cash. How many someone put a tweet up and I love that. It was like, does Cash have diplomatic immunity? Because he kept on making fouls. He made like 5 fouls. Like
he's given some cash to the ref. That's why
I don't think he had a tackle and he had like 4 fouls.
He had like 4
fouls. He won no tackles and had 4 fouls.
Yeah, Smith Rowe literally just kept on like getting fouled by him. Like he even got done off that. Smith Rowe was even doing him in movement off the ball. Like I just don't know.
Did you guys see that thing where he kind of he jinked and then Cash just fell on the floor and then
it was beautiful that body feint and he just fell on his horse.
I'm not gonna get body feinted without the ball.
So, but yeah, in terms of Cash, I mean that's another one. Like I don't know how it feels like. Do you remember the other leg? And I remember there was I think I can't remember who it was, but there was someone that was definitely meant to be getting a red there for persistent fouling. and it's very strange how it was. It was
They
ref
pulled
very
the
strangely.
Everton kind of roadmap, didn't they? Like just in
Yeah,
general. I mean, they were sitting there doing fouls in transition because they knew once we got started, we kind of kept
they
going.
weren't stopping.
And I think when people are looking at fitness in terms of how we decided to go into our own half, I mean, personally, I think Emil dropped off in the second half. He definitely didn't look fit, and we kind of lost tempo as a result. And we just didn't really get our technical security up. And I think Mikel kind of knows his disgusting block of work, and as opposed to really having the ability to change things. Because I think one thing that we should talk about is he tried to change the tempo with Eddie and and Pepe, but they offered nothing. They were really poor substitute appearances. And, he did try to use it to get us up the pitch. And so when you're looking at that drop off in the last 10 minutes, Mikel responded by trying to get, in theory, a leggy striker to help press from the front, and Pepe, who we thought could stretch with his play outside and make runs in the wide space, exactly how Saka, by the way, had tons of joy. But yeah, Nicholas was not doing well in this game. He had a really poor cameo, probably his worst cameo in a while. Because, guys, I don't know about you, but
The
I
ball
don't know if he
retention.
subbed on Leicester and Liverpool, but before that, he was doing well. He had very
He
good
was.
cameos.
After AFCON, like Brentford, he was very good.
Yeah.
But
This is what happens. He's very much a confidence player. If he has that confidence and he has that kind of like the rhythm, he can put like a string of
But he
games
had it,
together.
didn't he, Curran? Like, did he not play Leicester and Liverpool? Again, I don't know
Yeah,
because I
but
wasn't here.
like it was very much a case of I just feel like if he wants to be part of this, he needs to just sort of I don't know what something needs to happen with him. He needs to start a game maybe. I don't want him to, but something needs to happen with him just to get him going. And if he goes, we can have that that six GA in 3 games sort of
He's
run
a
that
hot
he
streak
produced.
player, right, guys? Like, you
Very
feed the
much
beast
so.
when he's hot. When he's hot, you feed the beast. But I think those two were such poor substitute appearances, and they do nothing to
Eddie,
basically
man.
put yourselves. And what frustrates me is like from a look. I understand that Eddie probably isn't gonna stay with us, and like not probably, he just isn't going to stay with us. But at this point in the season, you're gonna want to not prove yourself to other teams, I would think. And there's a
Yeah.
spot to be taken there, like Lacazette and his play. I'm sorry, but there's an upgrade there. And as a kid, I'd be telling him, look, mate, you've got to sit there and say that you can push on and you can really stake your
Give me
claim.
a Mika. At this point, give me a Mika cameo. You know what I mean? It's just sad. Like Eddie is, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
it was tough to watch, but I think like that last 20 minutes, like that was the attempt. So when Villa had it, we ironically did get a little bit more possession, but that was just because we smarted up a little bit, in my opinion. And of
Can
course, then
we
you've
can
got
we talk about this though? Do you think that maybe a Mika cameo could freshen things up, or
it
do you
won't
not think
happen.
he's? But do you
no,
think it
because
could?
he's nowhere near ready. As like a profile, I liken him to Eduardo. Again, if anybody is
Yeah,
old
no,
enough
he's,
or young
that
enough
is the
able
comparison,
to
correct?
kind of
Correct.
remember, but as a profile, he's very similar to Eduardo, which is odd because he's 6'2". People think he's this Dusan Vlahovic type of physical striker, but he's not. He runs the channels. He does drop deep and link play well, but he doesn't do well in contact. And so he definitely needs a little bit more development to develop into that player to do it. But for me, it's really tough watching the front line right now because I got really disappointed with Eddie and Pepe as well. Like he had good cameos beforehand as well. So it's
Yeah,
frustrating.
Brentford and Wolves was good, but Leicester he didn't. He came on for like 4 minutes or something,
Mm.
and then Liverpool he played 10 minutes. But the games before that he played like 25 minutes, which was the difference.
I think
But
he needs time to get into the game.
Well, he got time, guys. Didn't he got introduced at the 70th minute? I swear, didn't he?
yeah, the 69th minute he came on.
Okay, so that's
Nice.
25 minutes. We had what,
Yeah.
4 minutes of added time,
Yeah.
and he was non-existent. Like, and the poor touches. Like I know, like Yo-Yo mentioned it before, but he's got the miss kick there too. Like, look, I'm sympathetic for somebody that comes in and is in and out of the team. I am, truly, I am. But if you're going to sit there to stake a claim in the starting 11, you've got to do more. And he just wasn't. He kind of made it a more nerve-wracking last
He
little
did
bit
because
for us.
he lost the ball 4 times
Yeah.
on the time that he was on the pitch. He lost all 4 duels, or he won one aerial duel that led to that chance. But apart from that, he didn't do anything.
It was a
He
net
just-
negative, and I was really worried about him coming on because in this type of game, we couldn't lose possession, especially when the previous 20 minutes were so loose. But But then you've got the super sub holding that everyone likes to do, which, by the way, I don't think he does anything special. He literally
He
just
holds it down.
commands in the center of the box and allows people that like to step, like Gabriel and White, to step. Like he doesn't, do anything amazing. He just holds his position, which is good.
Holds it down.
He didn't do anything this game, by the way. He
did
did
nothing.
the hide signal.
No aerial duels.
He did the hide signal, which is bigger than anything he's done.
He got his GIF. He got his GIF.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Look, I'm a big fan of the GIF moment. Are you kidding me? He came in there. He did nothing. People are like Holdini holding it down. And there you go. Rob Holdini making waves. But, look, at the end of the day, I think it was a very easy closeout. I didn't want it to hide away, by the way, from the overall game. I thought it was a very dominant performance. Overall, for me, Emile Smith-Rowe was the man of the match. He constantly pressed with the tempo. And while Saka had a lot of the output moments and the, oh my gosh, he could score, I think it was all because of Emile working space a little bit more before. So for me, that was it. Of course, Saka got the Jordan rules, and I think Partey did excellent in this game. I'm with Willow. It was tough between him and Emile. I just gave it to Emile because I felt like he made the big unlocking moments a little bit more, and we relied on him a little bit more to change the tempo. But Partey was so good in the center of the pitch once again. And really quick shout out to Cedric and White, who did really well in transition. I know we didn't really quite talk about Cedric, but he also had a very good game once again in this game.
7 games in a row. 7.
Oh my god, mate! Like it's killing me. My one freaking agenda that's left is doing really
ridiculous.
Well. Oh my god,
But he did well. Like defensively, was very, very good. Like Cedric and White were so good in transition, covering people. So yeah, fair play. And I don't know about you guys, but it led basically to the international break now, and we're in fourth. Basically in control of our destiny, and I was just really happy that we got a 1-0 to the Arsenal. I'm not gonna lie.
Away from him as well, against the passionate guys with Agbonlahor, Gerrard coming in. Oh, I'm so passionate about the game. Gerrard praising the team, then after going against the team, it was fun. It's always fun to see the switches because before the game, Ruben Neves praises us. We beat them 2-1 in the 95th minute, and he starts they celebrate like they win the league. Ashley Young and Gerrard, they do the exact same thing. Like it's just fun to watch. Don't they think if they're gonna celebrate like this every single game? Brendan Rodgers said it after Leicester. They say after every single away game when we win, and we celebrate like that. They say we win the league. Like maybe we win the league every game that we win because we won 31 out of our last 39 points, and the times we drop points is City, Burnley, and Liverpool, which that's since December. So.
Can I just talk about this Gabby Agbonlahor thing quickly? So basically, right, Gabby Agbonlahor was on BT Sport. He said none of this shit. None of this. None of this energy came up about, there's the celebration. We were celebrating in front of him. He was on BT Sport. He could have said something then, it's a bit much, ain't it? But no, what happens is he gets his talking point from Gerrard and he thinks, I can go on TalkSport. I can go on TalkSport and get a bit of exposure on this. And then he does his shit. He makes a little point. And then Laura Woods just goes, okay, we said this last time about loving Gerrard celebrating the goal when he first came. That's what the fans want to see. Literally pulled him up on it. And this is what happens when people run off narratives. And I want this to
Laura
be a
Woods is beautiful, man. Laura Woods is beautiful.
Okay. Shoulders off, George.
No,
right?
Shush your face. Okay, the big boys are talking right now. Laura Woods.
He even said after they scammed the win versus Brighton, they scored in the 89th minute. They scammed the win versus Brighton, and they started celebrating like they won the league. And he was like, I love the passion.
Can we just appreciate though, Woodsy, for a minute? A person who just destroyed
I'm not trying to get cancelled here by some random robot from Canada, okay?
She loves it. Don't worry about it. People in the comments know she's amazing. She's incredible and just so smart. Just calmly dissects and completely destroys the clueless Gabby Agbonlahor. And you know what's crazy? Afterwards, I think they interviewed him too. Oh, I was just upset, from a Villa loss. And I'm like, yeah, mate, okay. Yeah, you weren't upset in the moment. Castrated on live TV by a woman who's way more intelligent than you. Like it was just craziness.
No, but he didn't even say that in the moment. If it was in the moment and he said, "Okay, I was in the moment," it was emotional, fine. But he saw it. He said nothing. the
You know
talking
what's
point
amazing?
arose.
Laura Woods has got she's got Jamie O'Hara, now Bombelhort.
Yeah.
What's that meme of the Reaper going through
Yeah,
different doors?
all the
Yeah,
doors.
with
Okay,
the bloody
which
doors.
which big club person is she going to
I
take down
need
next?
her to get Simon Jordan. I need her to get Simon Jordan. I would
We've got
actually
Palace coming up,
laugh.
so it could
no,
be.
Gary Neville.
Because Simon Jordan, right? I like him at times. When it comes to business side of football, he knows what he's talking about. But he gets very much. He did destroy his past. Let's be real, but like he knows more about what the finance of football than most of these pundits do. When it comes to actually talking about clubs and talking about football, he can get very biased at times, and it's funny to see. But I think
last pundit thing I want to say
yeah,
is obviously after the game everyone's played 28, 29
28.
games.
We've got 10 games of the season left.
We've got 10 games of the season left. So they asked the question, who do you think is going to get top 4? And Martin Keown, the first to speak, said Spurs. He said Spurs are favourites.
We should all stay Spurs, to be honest.
What do you obviously now going into the international break? We're probably not going to talk about Arsenal much for the next 2 weeks. What are you guys' take on the top 4 before international break?
I don't know. I think most of it's just narrative, I'll be honest with you. I think it's more of the same. I've kind of said my piece in terms of what we need at this point. I think people online take too much rival wins and blow it up way too much. I think it's ridiculous. Ultimately, guys, it's very simple. Last 10 games, we've got a lot of away games, but again, as you know, Chris, and we've said earlier in the pod, first time we've done 5 in a row since 2015. So I don't know where this fear about away games goes, because it's not a fear. It's a strength of Arsenal's right now. It's a new Arsenal. I understand, kind of post-traumatic Arsenal disorder to a little bit. I get it. But guys, let's talk facts a little bit. Okay, we have an excellent away record. And when we look at that last 10-game run, Chris, I think only 3 are against top 6 rivals or traditional top 6 rivals, which is Man United, Chelsea,
Spurs, and United.
Yeah, and there's only 3 of them. So there's
Chelsea,
7 left.
Chelsea, Spurs, and United. My mistake.
Yeah, there's only 7 of them that are outside the traditional top 6. And guys, it's very simple. 2 things: focus on your own lawn, and secondly, get that consistency of outcome against teams outside the top 6. Bada bing, bada boom, you get top 4. Simple.
The worst thing is, though, the issue when people talk about our consistency, when I just say, 31 out of the last 39 points we've got, is that the other teams around us, like Spurs, for example, who are probably now our biggest rival for the top 4. The top 4, they won 2 games in advance, and the commentators are shouting consistency. I'm just baffled.
Your tweet said it all, man. Just that screenshot said it all.
Yeah, how much they've been propped up, but Spurs they're gonna leave that game to probably the second last game of the season, just because United played Chelsea that weekend, so they're gonna want another big game on the TV, which is weird. But I think it'll be done and dusted by the time we do eventually play Spurs. But yeah, we've got big games coming up in Palace, Brighton, Southampton, and then Chelsea, United, and stuff.
No, but this is where we can differentiate ourselves. This is quite clearly where we can do, because teams have dropped points to Palace. Teams have both.
Palace are very, very good.
Very good team, right?
Very good.
It'll be nice for narrative. I predict a very easy win along this next 3-game run, because in our previous time it was, Palace and Brighton gave us a tough time. I think there's a very different Arsenal. You're going to look at like a bookend here between the seasons, and you're going to have some fairly not easy. Easy is probably the wrong word, but we will definitely win those games.
There's a lot of on the beach teams as well, though.
Palace have got their top 4 expected defense in the league.
Yeah, they're very good, and this is the thing. Out of those 3 games, I'm pretty sure. Probably, I would personally say that Brighton and Southampton are probably as close to being on the beach as you can expect. Especially Brighton, their form just looks very much. They've kind of wilted under Graham Potter, and Southampton are a good. Yeah, I know, but Southampton as well look like they've secured their safety, and they're just looking like they're just building for next season now. I'm not going to dismiss any of those games, because Southampton beat Spurs. Brighton are still a good footballing side, and if they don't have that central striker threat that you would need to be challenging for that next level, Crystal Palace are a good team as well. So you can't be too complacent with these teams. But 9 points I hope we can get from those three, and then we can move on. The differentiation is if we relish these games, whereas other teams, they prefer, like Spurs, for example, they will draw or win against Liverpool and Man City, but they'll lose to Burnley, they'll lose to Southampton. So this is the differentiator, and as you mentioned, George, finishing outside the top six is the teams outside the top six. That's where that needs to be your bread and butter. You need to pick up points as well as you can from those teams, and that's where we can differentiate ourselves.
Do those 9 points. Very simple. Look, take that
Very
three
simple.
game blocks before you beat those kind of rivals. Take your 9 game blocks, your 9 point wins, and let's see where we go from there. But Willow, mate, what about you? What are you thinking? International break. Where are we at here?
I'm a bit of a numbers guy when I look at it, and I just think 70 points is kind of what gets you there. And I think, we need, 5 wins, 1 draw, 4 losses.
Points.
Yeah, 16. We need 16 points. So 5 wins, 1 draw, 4 losses. That's what we need. Spurs need 6 wins.
Points.
I think, so they need 6 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses. When have we seen Spurs have that consistency this season? We haven't.
3 games in a row.
Exactly. We haven't seen it. And United, again, they need 6 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss or something like that. So again, we haven't seen that consistency from United as well. If you look at that, if you just look at the numbers there, 6 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss.
There's only 4 teams that have won 5 games in a row.
Yeah, exactly. So it is if you look at that, 6 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss to our 5 wins, 1 draw, 4 losses. I don't even care when people are talking about, you still got to play Chelsea, you still got to play United, you still got to play Spurs. We can actually lose all of them games and still comfortably get top 4. And by the way, people keep on going on about Arsenal, Arsenal still got to play United. Bro, have you seen us play United at the Emirates in the last 4 years? By the way, with an some of the time with an awful Arsenal team. We've actually got a good Arsenal team as well now, and we're playing them at the Emirates, which is now a fortress as well.
We have a great record against United at the Emirates.
Yeah, at a time.
The only one that we have a bad record against is Spurs away.
Yeah,
we don't
technically
even Chelsea we're okay with.
Last 4 times against Chelsea, we won 3 of them.
Yeah, we haven't lost Stamford Bridge for 3 years now. We are good against all of these sides, apart from Spurs. I don't care. This Arsenal team was awful. Sometimes Emirates wasn't even a fortress. Even under Emery, their Emirates wasn't even a fortress all the time, and we still were beating United. So I don't know why we're worried to play United. United should be shitting themselves to playing us. I don't care. And the
thing is, Willow, if you watch all the other rivals, all their content, they go, we can't get top 4, we can't get top 4. It's only our fans that think we're not the favorites for top 4. Every other, you watch Goldbridge. By the way, one of the funniest men on planet Earth is Mark Goldbridge. I don't care what anyone says, he's hilarious. He doesn't think they're getting top 4. You watch any of the Spurs content. I mean, why would you? But if you do, you'd see that they don't think they're getting top 4. We're living on a prayer every week. They don't know.
I know a lot of Spurs fans that think they're going to get it, but the issue is that Arsenal fans, to say it to the league, they're cowards because they didn't expect this team to be where they are, and now they are where they are. They're trying to convince themselves, I was right. So they're going to have to falter at some point, even though in the last 13 games they've lost twice, and these people speak. I've seen accounts that used to tweet every single day that tweet once a month because we don't drop points anymore.
I've seen accounts deactivated because of it.
It was so that, self-deprecating. They've been doing it all season.
The problem is, mate, it's not a minority. I would be okay if it was a small section of the fan base that are acting this way, but for the most part, it's a majority of the fans that are acting this way. And when you start to talk about common sense, where they're well, what about the away days? Well, mate, we've won 5 in a row for the first time in 7 years. Oh, okay. Well, what about our opportunities about consistency? Well, Arsenal are probably the 4th best. In fact, the 3rd most consistent team in the rolling average for the last 10 games. Oh, okay. Well, if it's not consistency, it's, our ability against rivals. Well, Arsenal have proved in the last year that we have had an excellent record against our rivals. In fact, the only ones that we haven't is Man City and Liverpool consistently. We actually do well against Chelsea, Man United, Spurs. So for me, it's not a guarantee. It's none of that stuff. But at the end of the day, it kind of is. I hope to be an asshole, but it kind of is.
You know,
Like,
I think on that note, on that note, we'll start.
show the
to do
prediction
our-
table.
Yeah, the prediction table. Go on, CK.
Oh, I'll shoot it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing this. Hang on a minute.
there we go. So Chris got that 1-0. Little cheeky bastard. But yeah, guys, look, we've got some content that will definitely come up for you guys. We'll definitely throw you guys up about promos and stuff about what we're going to be doing the next 2 weeks for the international break. We'll try to get a little bit of extra content for you guys. Of course, that member content that now I'm back, we'll be able to do a little bit more stuff with. As usual, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You hit that bell for notifications. If you feel so endowed that you love the vernacular you find on this channel, hit that little join button next to the subscribe button. Become a member. You can. It's excellent content. We love you guys for doing it. All the support, and everybody keep commenting about what you guys want us to improve, because we love hearing about that. So nice to get back from you guys from Rome. You can find all the boys on their socials down here. I think all of the tags are also in the description, so we won't do the normal @GeorgeV and all that stuff. But much love from us, and we will definitely catch you guys really soon for some new member content. So thank you, and I hope everyone has a good night.
Peace.